come to play with.
How would you like your fans to think of you?
Just the music. Because when I'm dead, that's the only thing that'll be around.
I mean, he was literally the best singer I've ever heard.
This is our last goodbye.
He was, and he's my favorite.
One Easter vacation, I stayed with my father. He had a whole other family. No calls were returned.
He put his little hands on my face and said, "We're gonna be okay, Mommy, right?"
What do you think you inherited from your father?
People who remember my father. Next question.
We were these two sensitive young souls who found each other.
Race was huge.
My main influences, love, anger, depression, and Zeppelin.
He made her first record no one else could come close to making. It's uncanny.
He already looks like Sinatra.
He got where he needed to go.
I didn't want to be in his world if he didn't really want me there.
Hallelujah, hallelujah.
He said, "I have to tell you something about me. I'm not gonna last that long."
Where would you like to see yourself in 10 years?
I've been wrong, I've been completely ugly, I've been beautiful, I've been totally in love, I've been hideous, but I've never been dead.
Hey, Mama, she just said, I have some things I have to tell you.
Hi, I'm Chuck Braverman. This is another episode of Westdoc Online. Today we have a terrific episode with a fabulous filmmaker, and she doesn't know it, but I've been following her career for at least the last 10 years. The filmmaker is Amy Berg, and the film is It's Never Over, Jeff Buckley. And if you don't know who Jeff Buckley is, you certainly will soon, even though he's been gone for a while. His music is amazing. He's amazing. And Amy is a very talented filmmaker who has created a wonderful film about Jeff Buckley. Let's say hello to Amy. Hi, Amy. How are you?
Hi, Chuck. Nice to see you.
Good to see you. And I always ask, where are you and what city are you in right now?
I'm in Los Angeles.
Why is your company, I'm just looking at IMDb Pro and it shows your company is in New York, but I know you're California based, right? So
yeah, I've been in New York for the past almost 10 years, but I just came back last year. I went there to make the case against Adnan Syed in Baltimore, and then I just ended up staying on for a few years after my son went to college. Had to have a little, East Coast time.
You are an Oscar and Emmy nominated documentary filmmaker and the winner of a DGA award for best documentary one year, and in one of your half a dozen terrific docs like the Memphis 3 film that you directed, and you've also directed a dramatic scripted feature with Dakota Fanning and Diane Lane, right? Mm-hmm. How was that experience?
It was great. It was being a documentary filmmaker and doing a scripted film. I brought a lot of my real life experiences directing into it, and it was really great to work with a group of actors who all just really got into the true character that they were portraying. And it was a murder mystery psychological thriller type film, but there was a lot of familial dynamics that I think were really interesting to.
And did you feel like your documentary background helped you or hindered you, or how did you feel about that in terms of dealing with actors in a scripted show compared to a doc?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it helped me in most ways. The only hindrance was no pickup days. That was a problem, but that was more about the budget than the actual experience, because I think usually you do get some pickup shoots. So we had to get everything as we were going, and I like to kind of find things in the edit. So, that, I guess that would be the one drawback to that particular production.
How long was the shoot? How many days of shooting?
21 days. It was really tight. And we only had like 14 edit weeks. So it was like a real and it was a very complex story. So the dynamics were, I think the actors really helped me to get there as quickly as possible, but it would have been nice to kind of maybe play with it a little bit more.
And was there any big surprise or revelation about doing a scripted show coming from the world of doc? And
the first day on set was pretty intense, because I'm used to having like 3 people, and there was like this 45-person crew, and I was just a little overwhelmed. But then I just focused on like me and my DP and the actors, and kind of got into it. Also like not being used to like having like producers talk to you right when you first start shooting, and there was just a lot of like focus stuff that I wasn't used to, but I got used to it really quickly, and I had a really great team of people supporting me, so it was amazing.
Well, there are not very many of us who are doc filmmakers who've done scripted too, and I've found it to be all those things and even more. And sometimes I miss the smell of the 40-foot trucks and all that gear coming in and out compared to having like 2 people on the crew, or 102 people. Yeah,
I guess you could really look at the intensity that it involves making a documentary, and sometimes that is very exhausting at the end of a day when you're just like so immersed in a person and their story. And
how did you get so immersed in Jeff Buckley? And it's never over, Jeff Buckley. And I must say first, I think the film is magical, lyrical, mystical. It's almost a continuous collage, montage of music, sound effects, animation, stills. It's really quite wonderful. And since Jeff has been gone for how many years? 30 years. How did you?
28 years.
28 years. What got you into doing this film after doing these heavy crime films and that sort of thing?
Well, to be 100% honest with you, this is only the second film that I actually pursued out of like my entire resume in terms of going after the rights myself. And so I've been trying since 2000. Well, since after Deliver Us from Evil. I tried to get in touch with his mother in 2008, but I was unsuccessful. But then I started speaking to her, and around 2010, and she wasn't ready to do a documentary then, but every time I finished a film, I reached out to her, and eventually she said yes in 2019, and that brings us here. But I've really been wanting to do this my entire career, and everyone who knows me kind of thinks of me when they hear Jeff Buckley, because I just really want to tell his story, and I've been talking about it for so long. So I'm happy to finally be able to share it.
And it seems to me that you had at least more than 3, but the mother stands out as a very strong, interesting, compelling woman who you probably could have made a documentary about her, and in a way it is a documentary about her. And also Rebecca Moore and Joan Wasser are very compelling women in this story. And but it seemed by the end of the film that he was almost predicting his demise. Did you feel that way?
Yeah, there's so much kind of lore around Jeff's death. I mean, being that he was in Memphis to start, there's such a kind of witchery, ghost story kind of sentiment that goes with the neighborhood where he lived especially. But I think whenever someone dies, you can kind of pick things apart and like try to find the connections between like what's a conspiracy and what actually happened. So I will never really know, but there were some suspicious things that happened around his death, and I mostly focused on like what we actually know, which is that he was very impulsive and he was deprived of sleep, and he was just an unpredictable person. And he saw the water, it looked beautiful, he jumped in fully clothed and was singing. So it doesn't seem like a premeditated suicide in any way. But there were some suspicious things around the death, like you just mentioned. So.
It's so shocking in a way, isn't it? And the fact that he was, how do I put this in the right context? From a man's point of view, he was so good looking, too. And his music was so unique in so many ways. And he admired so many, a variety of artists, you know, from Edith Piaf to Nina Simone to Led Zeppelin. I mean, it just is, if you wrote the story, people would say, no, he can't die at the end. It just doesn't make sense, right?
It doesn't make sense. And it was so dramatic when he died. I remember hearing that his body was missing, and then like every day checking to see what it was and listening to his music. And yeah, it was so unbelievable. You believed it when it was like Kurt Cobain and a number of others, like from that other scene, Lane Staley, you know, that kind of dark heroin scene. But with Jeff Buckley, it just seemed like his star was just starting to shine, and he had so much to give to the world. It just didn't make any sense.
What was the process for you when you got finally the go-ahead, I guess, from his mother, and you started? Where did you start, and how did you begin?
Well, I mean, I got the rights in the summer of 2019, and then the pandemic, you know, hit 6 months later. So I just really stayed in the archive in the beginning. I just worked through it at home and, you know, got through his journals. I printed everything out. I, you know, highlighted statements that I wanted to make, and then, you know, kept looking for more footage, and slowly started building the, you know, web that we built. So,
you know, going back, I can't remember in the credits, but you had a great deal of not classical animation, but it seemed like in animating his visuals, his notes, and everything else. Was there a person or a company that you brought in that did all this animation or animating of his material?
I have a frequent collaborator in Sara Gunnarsdottir, who's an Icelandic animator, and we worked together in the past. And I brought her in very early on because I wanted to recreate the 90s and the kind of tactile version of analog days, I guess, is basically. Wanted to go analog with this film. I wanted to feel the warmth of the 90s. And use his journals and the visual inspirations of the time. So we really dug in deep. And then she came on more substantially towards the end when we had like a locked cut.
She's in Iceland and works in Iceland?
Yeah, in Reykjavik. She used to live in Brooklyn, so but she's in Iceland now, and she's incredible. I love working with her. She also did that film a couple years ago, My Year of Dicks. Do you remember that? The animated short that was nominated? Yeah, she's amazing. I just can't say enough about Sara.
Have you been to Iceland?
Not yet.
It's fabulous.
Yeah.
Yes. I did a tour around Iceland filming a woman who decided in her midlife crisis that she needed to do something after her divorce, and she bought the most expensive motorcycle you can buy, and she shipped it to Iceland, and we filmed her driving the the route around. I forget what it's called, but it's just the one road that goes the entire island around the island.
Wow.
Of Iceland.
I want to see that. That sounds incredible.
When you approach a film like this that is going to sort of have a rebirth for an artist like Jeff Buckley, what happens on music clearance?
It was difficult. A lot of the artists that he covered were passed away, and we used a lot of music, as you saw. It wasn't easy. And we didn't have, we had the estate, obviously, they gave us everything. And so we had that precedent to speak to other folks because, you know, oftentimes that isn't the case. And then it's harder to get the rights. But we were able to get mostly everything we wanted. But the budget kind of went up a couple times. But that's what happens with music, I guess. So
I always ask the filmmaker, and I usually get an area, a zip code of what the budget is. Can you give us a clue as to what area the budget is in this film?
It's in the twos. Mid twos.
And I've sort of gotten in the habit in the last couple of episodes of Westdoc of sort of discussing the state of the art of the documentary film these days in relation to distribution and outlets and so on. And I'm wondering if you want to comment on that and how it might affect your film one way or the other.
Yeah, it's depressing. I mean, I hope that things will turn around, but it just doesn't feel like the warmest climate for documentaries right now. And there's a lot of films that haven't sold. We were very fortunate. We had multiple offers at Sundance, and we had to go through the process of, finding the right formula because I wanted this film to be global. I wanted it to have a theatrical release. There were certain things that had to make sense. So we were very fortunate in finding the partnership that we did. But it took a while. And I don't know what's going to happen next. I don't know. I think the political climate has changed what people are buying now. I don't think that's for the better. And so I'm hoping that, we'll get back to a better place because, people want content, obviously. But maybe there is less discretion on how good it is nowadays.
And what are the distribution dates? You release theatrically when and
August 8th in theaters, and I guess sometime in December for HBO, but we're going out globally with Universal sometime between now and then, depending on the country, I guess.
And is there a connection? How did you get to HBO? Obviously, you did the Adnan Syed film.
And Phoenix Rising. Well, they were at the premiere. There were a lot of buyers at the premiere at Sundance. We sold this out of Sundance.
This was from the last Sundance?
Just a few months ago, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And can you tell me a little bit about what the post-process was for you?
Whoa, it was long. It went through different phases. The first chapter was like really just creating an assembly of the archive, which was like 4 hours long, I think, and then trying to whittle the story down. We went down quite a bit, to be honest. We went down a few times just to kind of digest and try to regroup. So I worked with a few different editors over the process, and it was incredible with every one of them. They all brought something different to it. But I ended up finishing with Brian Cates in New York for a few months, and then I brought it back to Los Angeles and worked with Stacy Golday here, and we took it to the finish line, which was great. But, it was really, I wanted to feel like you were in his world and in his head. So it just was, we had to get so deep, which is, can be exhausting for certain editors, So we just kept pushing and pushing, and that's how it kind of became what it became. But the edit was at like 2 years, so it was a long edit.
And were you a fan of his music before he died? And is that why you kept coming back to the film, or was there something else going on that you knew his story? Or?
I mean, he was a disruptor of the 90s. You know, I loved his music because when it came out, you know, it was a very aggressive, masculine moment in music with like Seattle and like really hard sounding guitars and amps, and everything was like in your face and aggressive. And then I heard this album and it just like warmed my heart, and I felt like somebody understood my pain. I was in my early 20s, and it was like very kind of just moving to me. Jeff's grace just really got me. So and like I said, I was really distressed by his death. I could not believe it. And then when I started to find out about his father and his lack of a relationship with his father, being abandoned, and they're just the layers of that relationship were very compelling to me. And then his complicated relationship with his single mother, who was so young when she had him. All of these things motivated me to want to tell the story, but mostly his film feels so cinematic, and I just wanted to feel it in the medium that I am used to working in.
How do you describe the fact, I mean, there's a moment in the film which is sort of amazing to me when I think it's, I don't know, MTV Awards or Rock and Roll Hall, somewhere where Led Zeppelin is up on stage, and he points to Led Zeppelin, and you know, you've been in my head, you're in my head, and I think Jeff Buckley, Led Zeppelin, it seems like you know, black and white. It doesn't seem to match at all to me. I don't get it, that part. I mean, Nina Simone and Edith Piaf and, you know, and Leonard Cohen, that I get all that. Led Zeppelin, I don't understand that at all. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but I mean, his guitar playing was on a level of, you know, Jimmy Page. And he grew up listening to Led Zeppelin. It was in his head. And it was like a clear, you know, I showed this in the film a number of times, this kind of relationship he had with that music. And I think that there were people that were into like Led Zeppelin in the 80s, and there were people that were into like the Stones, Pink Floyd. Like, I think he just identified with that lane so much, you know. You didn't hear about like the other bands as much as Led Zeppelin with him and a couple other notable artists from that era.
How was it dealing with the...
Also, can I say one more thing about that? Like the other thing that was a very obvious connection to Led Zeppelin was like when he went in to make Grace, he brought in a full string section. He brought in Carl Berger to like compose with him, and that had a very Zeppelin feel to it as well with the strings.
It was very depressing, actually, hearing about the pressure that he felt like he was under from the record company to deliver the second album, and especially after being on the road for so long. And you would have thought that a record company like Sony, Columbia, would have known better, so to speak, by this time. You know, yes, I guess they were under pressure and they wanted another album and they wanted to get the money, but still, didn't they, you know, is there any insight into the fact that he felt, and the fact that he was underwater with them, I guess, from whatever advance he must have gotten, that he wasn't making any money.
I mean, you can see, I spoke to them at length about it, Don Einer especially, and I think like it was a business relationship for them. They felt that Jeff toured endlessly to avoid like what he really needed to do, which is what he was doing. He was trying to like find his voice. He was trying to find his ideas that would inspire him. He was trying to live his life in the way that he did up to the point when he wrote Grace. He had 24 years of experience at that point. And then to write a second album right away, it just, at this point where he was kind of blossoming, I think he just wasn't able to get there. And I guess they just felt like, well, just put anything out just to keep exercising the muscle. They just wanted him to perform in that way. And he wanted to find it in touring. So he wasn't ready, and he was young, and he was vulnerable, and he had that voice in his head. And in a way, he was his own worst critic. As much as the label wanted him to perform, I think he really wanted perfection. And he wasn't going to do anything but perfection after that album that he put out, Grace. So it was kind of a perfect storm in a way.
What was it like, if I can switch subjects back to the two women that I thought were the three women, really, dealing with them when you were sitting down with them and doing the interview and talking about Jeff, who obviously the three of them knew intimately?
Well, I felt Jeff's presence through those interviews, to be honest. He's very much alive in them. So I think it was hard for them, I think holding on to this love and wanting to keep it to yourself and then sharing it with the world at this point is, it's a big step, especially for Rebecca, who's never spoken about it publicly. But I just saw what he did for them, to them, with them. I saw the impact he had on their lives, and it was beautiful and emotional for everyone involved.
What are you working on next?
Well, I'm working on a documentary about Chris Cornell right now, actually, the singer from Soundgarden, which is he's in this film, so it's kind of an evolution of this film. They were very close, and when Jeff died, Chris kind of came apart, and so I'm just trying to dive into that. I'm enjoying this kind of musical archive moment in my career, so I'm going to stick with it for a little bit, and hopefully working on another dramatic feature about a true story.
Well, thank you so much.